Hello, hello, my friends. It is Jennifer McCollum here, business coach for parent coaches and founder of the Parent Coach Club. And I have the most energetic, fabulous parent coach with me. We've just been chatting before, and I can't wait for you to meet Elisabeth Harrod. Hello, Elisabeth.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation a lot.
Well, I am too, because you gave me so many nuggets as we were just like warming up to our chat. And I'm like, no, I wasn't pressing record. Our parents need to hear this. You have so much goodness. Elisabeth, I want to tell you a little bit about her, but you know what? I'm going to let you tell us really how you got into this. But to start, Elisabeth loves working with dads. Her business is Purpose Parenting. You can find her at purposeparenting.net. She's got a golden nugget to leave us at the end, so stay to the end. And during our chat today, she is going to talk about transforming the relationship with your kids and how, well, I won't give it all away, but it starts with guess who. So let's dive into it. Elisabeth, tell us about you. Tell us how you got into this parent coaching world, and then we'll dive into the topics.
Sounds great. I love it. Well, thanks so much for having me. And I'll just say that I feel first and foremost as a teacher. So I decided in 5th grade, when I was 10 years old, that I would become a 5th grade teacher. So I went to college and learned how to be a 5th grade teacher, and I became a 5th grade teacher. So I taught in elementary schools in North Carolina in the United States for many years. And then I left the classroom because I felt that the classroom was too rigid for what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be more creative and have more autonomy. So I went into museum work. So I worked with an inquiry-based museum where people of all ages, children, families, parents, teachers, I did a lot of workshops for teachers, would come. And I always hoped they would leave with more questions than answers. That's the kind of teacher I like to be. Not someone who bestows knowledge, but more like, get in there and let's learn together. And that's one thing I love about being a parent coach, because every time I get to talk to a parent, I feel like I learn something and I grow. So that is really fun for me and fascinating and exciting. I have 2 kids of my own. I always wanted to be a mom, and my children are grown now and I have an empty nest. So when that happened, I homeschooled my kids. So I spent a lot of time with my children and their friends. And when they all disappeared, I thought, I want to help parents. I got a lot of help when I was a parent, even as a teacher who had a lot of experience with children. I needed support just like everybody else. And I wanted to be that support for other parents. And I was getting a lot of parents asking me, your kids are so amazing and you seem to have such a good time with them. How is that possible? And so I found myself, talking to parents a lot. And I decided to hang out my shingle and get a real office and be able to work with parents in groups, like in workshops, and also one-on-one. So that's maybe the arc of my parenting journey. I've loved children all my life. I was 3 years old when I thought, I just love kids. And I loved them ever since. So 50 years of loving being with children and really understanding what it takes to have an amazing relationship with them, and that's possible. So a lot of people don't even know that. So I really appreciate getting this chance to talk to parents through this video.
You know, it's so beautiful to see your background as, teaching and then in museums, running those workshops, and how you just want them asking more questions. I think that is a beautiful attribute of a coach, a true coach, is you're bringing your teaching in and you're giving them, a lot to think about and question and shift and transform. And if you go to Elisabeth's website, you'll see testimonial after testimonial of like, I've been to a therapist for years, and then, 1 or 2 sessions with Elisabeth and everything shifts. Transformation happens. And I love that certainty. I love the certainty of the work that you do. I think it's so important to just, know that you have that value, and then all of your experience and education all culminating into a beautiful parent coaching business. So that is wonderful.
Well, I've just seen it happen so many times. And it doesn't take much. I mean, I remember a family I worked with where the mom had a therapist, the daughter had a therapist, they had a family therapist. They've been working on an issue they were struggling with for 18 months. I talked to the parents for 3 hours. It was a long session. And in 3 hours, problem solved. Daughter was able to move back home and they're thriving as a family. And we haven't had to talk again. And I'm not saying it's always like that. They had one particular issue, but it seemed like one issue to them, but really it was a bigger question of, were they ready to give their 21-year-old daughter autonomy? And when we really talked about that and how important that is and how ready she was for it, then everything, as you say, shifted. And so I think my confidence just comes from knowing what's possible and knowing that when we make changes inside ourselves, our kids feel it. And then it's almost like, let's do more. I'm going to change more, because it shows up in how you feel about your child, everyday experience of living at home. I want more of that and less of that. And I didn't even know this was possible. And now that I know that it is, I just want more of it. And getting curious with parents, I think that's that inquiry model that I was talking about. We have these beliefs inside us, and it's like, is that belief serving you, what you believe about your child? If I could, I'll just give a quick example about how that plays out. Sometimes our kids remember things and sometimes they forget things, right? Every day they remember their soccer shoes and the next game, they forget their soccer shoes. So both are true, right? They forget things and they remember things. And so we can think, I like to think of it as a circle. We can have these thoughts. My kid always forgets things. They're just always so forgetful. They forgot their soccer. And then you tell stories to my neighbor. He forgot his soccer shoes again. And it becomes a belief. The more we think it and the more stories we tell, it becomes a belief. And once it's locked in as a belief, we will look for confirmation of it, right? And we'll find it because they forget sometimes. He forgot again. I knew it. He's always such a forgetter. And the sad thing is, by the time we've made that loop, our kids are hearing the voice, I forget things. I'm a forgetful person. I don't remember my soccer shoes. I'm going to forget next time, because our voice is their voice. And that's so important for parents to remember. And it's not always that it comes out of our mouth. If we're thinking it, they feel it. They're so attuned to us. So if inside you're thinking they always forget their soccer shoes, but you're saying, okay, remember your soccer shoes. You didn't say, it's not what you say, it's how you're thinking inside and the stories you're telling yourself. Try it again the other way, which is also true. Most of the time my kid remembers things. Sure, they forget sometimes, but they do a really good job. Look, he remembered his soccer shoes. I believe my kid mostly remembers things. Everybody forgets once in a while. My kid mostly remembers. He's really good at remembering. And then the kid hears, I forget sometimes, but most of the time I remember. And they believe about themselves that they're a person who mostly remembers things. And then they mostly remember things. That's the power of what we think about our children, how it impacts them in like just a really practical way. So that's why what we're thinking about is so important. And the transformative thing is, who's in charge of what we're thinking about? I'm in charge of what I'm thinking about. And I have 100% control of that. So that's the transformative power, is all I need to do really is think about my child the way I want them to be and tell those stories, which are true, and believe those things. My child will start believing that, and we'll all look for those. I just got chills. We'll all look for those things and we'll find them. And then there'll be more of them.
That is so amazing, Elisabeth. Like, just as you were saying that, my shoulders went, like, really? Like, I know this because I told you this is what I teach in my business coaching. It's how our thoughts affect everything. But when you look at it like that in parenting, okay, well, they already know what I'm thinking. Even if what's coming out of my mouth is something else, they know it.
They know it.
Amazing.
They feel it.
So that's kind of getting in tune with what your thoughts are like, really transforming your thoughts first, right?
Yes. And your beliefs, it comes down to those beliefs. So if I believe that my child, whatever I believe about my child is what I'm going to see. Let me put it that way. So we can just set our meter towards, I think one thing I want to say right at this moment is the beauty of celebrating mistakes. If there's one thing I feel like I offer parents that's new to them, it's that making mistakes, what we call mistakes, right? What is a mistake? It's just a choice you made and how a thing played out, but they are our best teachers. And if we can celebrate and honor trying and stretching and growing and failing, and we can celebrate that instead of, beating ourselves up. And that again starts with us as adults. I forgot to send the email and my boss got angry with me. I can decide what I think about that. Like, oh, I'm going to change I'm going to make myself a reminder that I have to check a box. I sent the email. I'm going to double check my outbox every day before I leave work, make sure nothing's sitting there. I'm going to put in place some things that are going to make that mistake not happen again. And I'm so glad I made it, because now I'm able to, meet my boss's expectations more easily. Instead of, oh my God, I beat myself. I forgot to, I always, back to that circle again. So the way we respond to our own mistakes, once again, becomes how our children are going to respond to mistakes. Spilled milk, it's gravity, people. We're not in charge of gravity. So your kid walks by and knocks over a thing of milk. We can get all upset and you're always making a mess and I have to clean up after you and nobody supports the blah, 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 blah. That can be what we say. Or it can be like, well, beans, why maybe the dog can come over here and lick this milk up. Come on over here, Chester, and let's get him up. And now we're scrubbing and singing a song. Problem solved. And what do we want our kids to think every time they spill milk? You're going to make mistakes. You're a human being. It's going to happen. So how we respond to our mistakes, how we communicate that to our kids, becomes how they respond to their mistakes. And even if, are they mistakes? Again, they're things that happened. A story about that is one time we used to not have a car. We were talking about that before. So we took a lot of buses when my children were little. And so we were at the library waiting for a book that they really, really wanted, and so disappointing. Librarian couldn't find it. And we waited as long as we could, and we raced outside and we missed the bus. So now we get to wait half an hour for the next bus. And I sat down, we had just been to the library, let's read some books while we're waiting on the next bus. Librarian comes out with the book. I found it. So is missing the bus a mistake, or was it an opportunity to sit and read together and actually end up taking the book home? Now, you get those moments if you look for them. That's what I want to say. I teach parents how to get a win-win, 7-win mindset. Win-win is not nearly enough. We put ourselves in win-lose situations all the time with our kids. We only see winning and losing. And once you set up a win-lose scenario, everybody loses in the end. So I teach parents how to look for win-win, win-win. How can I find 7 wins in this moment? I missed the bus. If I seek them out, I will find 7 reasons why it was great that we missed the bus. I just have to look for them. I have to say to myself, maybe we'll sit down and read a book together, and we wouldn't have done that. I would have gone home and gotten busy making dinner. It's just a choice to see every situation that you're in as a win and an opportunity to teach your children how to look for wins. And now back to that circle, they become people who believe there are wins in every moment and look for them and find them. And that is transformative way to live. Very empowering.
What a powerful shift right there. And I can see why before we started recording, you told me that you've never received one eye roll.
Oh, tell me about that. What connects not getting an eye roll to what I just said?
Well, because if I'm going to say something that I'm thinking and it's a negative and it's coming out of my mouth that way, they're going to feel bad about themselves. They're going to feel defensive and roll their eyes at me and think, oh, she's always nagging, always on me. And there it is. So I love that you like that is incredible. Never once have you received an eye roll from a teen ever or any age.
Never. No, in no age. I've worked with kids, like I said, since I was 11, I started babysitting. And it never even occurred to me that I would get an eye roll. Like I don't give them a reason to roll their eyes at me, so they don't do it. I don't even know that my children know that's a thing that's even possible. And, this gets into something that I feel very strongly about. It wasn't one of our 3 points, but it just feels natural to say it here, that one of my mantras, my parenting mantras, is never give kids a reason to lie to you. If children are lying to us, we have given them a reason. They would rather tell us something untrue than suffer whatever consequence they feel they're going to get if they tell us the truth. So that's keeping the big arc of I always want my child to tell me things instead of I want to punish my child in this moment. And it's just, again, a huge shift. It's almost like a trusting the universe, that the universe will be the teacher. I don't have to do it. And I can just, attune with my child and comfort them. Oh, you made a mistake. That's so disappointing. I remember when I made that mistake at your age, and gosh, I was really sad. Or how are you feeling? And they're like, wow, I just told you I got drunk at a party or I got in a fight at school. And you're just saying, I'm so glad you told me. That's all you have to say. I'm so glad you told me. I am so glad you told me, because I want them to tell me the next time and the next time and the next time. And if I react in a way that's punishing or shaming or blaming, critical, why would they tell me anything? They don't want that. They'll go tell their friends who don't shame them, who just say, wow, dude, that sounds hard. Or yeah, I did that last Thursday, or, some reaction that they're looking for. And so at that age, especially when kids developmentally, naturally, their peers are becoming more important to them than their parents, which is wonderful. And we want to support that growth and autonomy. And at the same time, when things are really big deals to children, and I call them emerging adults, age 11 to 21, I call emerging adults. So it starts around 11. You start to think of your child not as the kid they've always been, but as the adult that they're heading into. And so more and more every day, turn over tiny little things to them. And the beauty of that is it's all on them. I don't have any responsibility for that anymore, whether it's laundry or getting a permission slip signed or what they're wearing. I'm just slowly turning over little things at first. You're not crossing streets alone until you've really built up the skills. But again, that's, my teaching on that, just as an example. You're 11 years old. We're standing at the street crossing. And I say, do you think it's safe to cross? Is this a time you would cross? Left, right, left. Yes, I would cross. No. See that car pulling out? You got to remember to look at that. Okay. Next time. When after 300 times, they've told you when it was good to cross and you agree 300 times or whatever. Now they're ready to do it where I'm going to be across the street. Now you come towards, teaching little steps. That takes 10 years. So that by the time my son was 15, he was ready. That was 5 years of that. He was ready to walk up to a bus stop, get on a bus, go to his class, get on the bus again, and come home. It didn't happen overnight. Little moments of autonomy. And I don't know how I got there from not giving our kids a reason to look at us, but
I think it's so interesting because, when the first point was kind of transforming our thoughts and how our relationship with ourselves really affects our kids. So we talked about that, but it isn't just, think good thoughts, think wonderful things, and it's just automatically going to happen. There are some like guidance pieces or some teaching that has to happen to get to that point. And I think that's kind of the second point that I think is really important, that, you can't just at a young age think my child is capable of doing this automatically on their own. They still need my guidance and they will get there. And that's great. And you're going through that,
yes.
Wonderful thoughts and beliefs. But the rules of parenting have always been, no, I need to be the one, you need to tell your child what to do. And I'm thinking like past generations, we tell our kids what to do, right? So that's how I kind of piece that together, is the guidance is still there, given
Yes.
that you're building that relationship and you're working on yourself and your thoughts, but that they still need your guidance and until they're ready for that autonomy.
Yeah. And not to be picky, but I would say just what you said, except use the word and instead of but. We control our thoughts and they need our guidance.
Oh,
not
beautiful.
But. Yeah. So that means I'm thinking my kid isn't there yet, but they will get there. I'm going to help them get there. So that could be a set of thoughts. They're 3 years old and they can't yet, chop an onion. I believe my kid is the kind of person who is going to one day learn to chop an onion, and we're going to do it step by step together. We're going to start with butter. What is it like to cut butter? Now, what is it like to cut, and you don't get to harder to cut things until you're ready. I believe my child will one day learn to do this. And I'm going to be their guide, is a great word, mentor, coach, whatever you want to say, as they get there. One thing that I did not know when I started becoming a parenting coach, because I had just been kind of in my own little world with children, in my classroom and museums and babysitting and homeschooling my own kids, that I think I start with, this is a kid, like a baby, and I'm the adult down here, because the baby needs so much. I mean, let's face it, and then, as they get older, we get to here, right? What I learned is that I think most people are like, adult is here, child is here, forever. Like that doesn't change. And so I'm just trying, maybe no one's else but me is ever going to think that, because I just love babies so much. but at least we're the same. I'm not better than you. I'm just older than you. I have access to money and I can drive and I have some wisdom to share. But you know who has the most wisdom of any person I've ever met? Your average 3-year-old. Spend time with a 3-year-old and if you're open to it, you will learn so much that you have forgotten. That is so important for what it means to be human. Because we start out life, right? The most human we are ever going to be. And then life does what it does. And we harden to that and we forget. And a 3-year-old, hopefully, has not lived long enough to have forgotten what it means to truly be human, and we can learn from them. So that's what to me, children are our best teachers. And so we can, be like, oh, can I learn from you today? At least we're no better than children, for sure. I am 100% sure of that. I'm going to stand by that statement. We are all equally human, regardless of our age.
Elisabeth, you are dropping so many golden nuggets in this chat. And this is why people need to come to you for parent coaching, because if you can give us this in 15, 20 minutes, what can you possibly do in an hour? Like that is the transformation. And that's why you have the certainty, because this all makes sense. And with your guidance, I know that we could all get there. Now, and I do want to point out too, just a shift in the way we use our words, like shifting but to and, but, and then shifting it to and, like that just feels so good. All of this just feels so good. And I think too, when we're feeling good about our parenting, we're doing better in our parenting. But
absolutely,
that's my thought on it.
It becomes addictive. You're like, we got through family dinner and it went so well. I want more of that. I mean, sometimes, honestly, Jennifer, it just comes down to, if you feel icky, stop doing that. If it feels icky with your child, just stop doing that. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but if your gut just doesn't feel right about it, I think if there's another thing I try to do to parents is like, trust yourself, your actual self, not the voice of your mom or dad or whoever told you weren't enough. Trust the part of yourself that's like, I'm enough. I can figure this out. I can grow. And I can become a different parent tomorrow than I was today. I can grow. And I know my kid can grow. So we're just going to grow together. And every day is an opportunity to grow closer with your child, regardless of their age. There's this idea out there that I have to work hard not to get grumpy about, that, the teen years and, your daughter is going to be so hard. If we tell ourselves that, we will believe it and we will find how hard it is. And if we tell ourselves, I'm just going to nail this parenting a teenager thing, they're an emerging adult and they're becoming more themselves every day. And I am just grateful and privileged to watch them go from the caterpillar that they were into this chrysalis and come out the other side a butterfly that can fly around. I never knew what colors they could be or what branch they would land on. And I'm just here cheering them on. And they'll come to me and they'll land on my shoulder and ask me for guidance and help and advice if I'm just open to being asked. And they might not always take it. And I'm okay with that. It's their life.
That is so beautiful. We can change too. Like, even if we were talking one way today, we have the capability, like it is possible to shift that. You have given so much. Thank you. Thank you. The last point we wanted to talk about was unconditional love.
My favorite topic.
Tell us about that, because I know that's a third point we wanted to tackle today. And, I could keep talking to you for hours, but I know that I want to get off this call so the parents can call you and get your one-to-one support. So let's talk about unconditional love, though. Tell me about that.
Right. Well, it's not a separate thing. It just wraps everything we've talked about with a bow, right? So unconditional love for ourselves. If there's any journey I love supporting parents to be on, is falling in love with yourself. And by that, I mean all your mistakes, all your weaknesses, all your frailties, all of things that people have shamed you for being in the past. If you're shy, if you're not loud, whatever people told you in your life wasn't okay, it's okay. It's who you are. And you can show up as that authentic self to your children, and they can watch you fall in love with yourself. And then from that place of self unconditional love and acceptance and grace and compassion, That's what we have to offer our children, is seeing them for who they are. And they change so much. You just turn around and they're different tomorrow than they were yesterday if we're parenting in ways that let them grow. And so knowing who they are, listening to what they're actually telling us, even if it's not what we want to hear, it's not the ideal we had set out for them. At this moment, when I talk about unconditional love, I often throw in that I watch a lot of cooking shows. I love to cook. And if I had a dime for every time a contestant on a cooking show has said, night after night, they say, I'm on this cooking contest because I wish my dad was proud of me. I want my family to accept me. I want my mom to believe in my choice. It breaks my heart that we have this whole generation of people who don't feel that their parents feel proud of them because of their choice to go into cooking as opposed to being an attorney or whatever, an engineer, whatever their parents had. And it just makes me very sad. And so again, the transformative power of however my kid turns out is exactly where they need to be right now, even if they're not ready to leave home at 18 years old, even if they haven't figured out their career and they're 25 years old, they're right where they need to be. And as long as we can help them see that from our own place of self-love, they have self-love, they will get where they get when they get there. And we can have this amazing relationship with them all the way throughout that journey.
I think that's so beautiful. A question that I think some of our listeners might have is like, how do we show unconditional love to ourselves? Can you give us like uh, a, an example of what that would look like?
Well, there's a lot of research coming out these days about nuanced language. You brought up language. So there was a study done over 5 years of 7,000 people, and they were asked to write down their feelings over the course of a year. Every time they had a feeling, write it down. And the upshot of that research was that in general, people on average have 3 words for feelings: happy, sad, angry. And when we only have 3 words, everything has to fit into one of those boxes. So everything becomes very, again, back to win-lose, black-white thinking. And so we don't have as many array of rainbow of options. So an example would be, if I am really connected to love for myself, and let's say how that played out all day was I slept in, I got good sleep, I ate the food I needed to eat, I did a meditation, I laughed a lot, let's say, I'm self-loving, right? That's what that looks like. And then it's dinner time, I'm tired, I'm trying to get food on the table and the kids are screaming and making a mess. And if I'm acting from self-love, I can respond to my children in a way that honors what they're doing. It's a little loud for me, kids. Mama can't take this noise. Let's turn it down. Could we just sing a song together? You know, you just are soft and you tune, and that's what that looks like. If all day I didn't get enough sleep and I'm angry at my partner and I spent more time yelling than laughing, now I get to the end of my day and they do the exact same thing and I'm screaming at them. And now, you know, peace at the home has disappeared. So loving ourselves and accepting our mistakes, back to that. You know, I forgot to put money in the parking meter. I got a parking ticket. Well, I guess I'll pay a parking ticket, and you just move on. You can hold on to that parking ticket mistake or situation and be angry all day long. And then you'll show up angry for your kids. That's because it's impossible not to. And that was all what I chose to think about myself because I didn't pay a parking ticket, or my hair doesn't look good that day, or my mom would have had all the dishes done. And so I'm not a good person because the beds aren't made and the dishes aren't done. You're just a person who didn't wash the dishes today. That's what happened today. And we don't need to assign bad or good to that. So back to language, I can have a nuanced relationship to my emotions. You know, I'm slightly disappointed that I didn't get the dishes done, but you know what? I'm elated that instead I read a chapter of that book. It's just how we talk to ourselves. It's the language of our emotions that allows us to know ourselves, trust ourselves, and show up as ourselves. And I don't know if it's time for the last point, but it would be a good time for me to make it if I can make that last
make
point.
it. I'm just like, tell me more. I'm soaking it all in.
I'm so glad. Well, what I've learned from working with children so that I now can apply to parents is, I think one of the reasons I get along very well with children is I'm my authentic self when I'm with them. So we were talking about this before we started. Children know when you are being straight with them. So an example would be, for a while I taught at a primitive outdoor school, right? And I'm really good at the storytelling part and the adventure and all kinds of stuff, but I'm not good yet at making fires. Notice I said yet. I'm not good yet at making fires because I haven't put in the time. And so I could be embarrassed about that in front of the children. You're the teacher of this Woodland school and you don't know how to make, in fact, a kid said that to me. And I said, you're right. I don't know how to make a fire. I haven't put in the time. It doesn't come very easily to me. Wow. Oh, okay. Would you like to help me work on it? Yeah. So I'm not embarrassed. I'm not, trying to put on airs, and kids love that. Like, this is how I feel inside and this is what's coming out of me. And kids can trust that. If you know anything about a secure attachment, what that means, you could go Google it after this, but secure attachment, my caregiver says something and that's what happens. That's how she feels. And that's secure attachment. What I find when parents are feeling that icky feeling, they're feeling one way inside about themselves or their kid, and they're acting a different way. And the gap between those things is incredibly confusing to children. Example I often use, I don't care what grades you get. Mom, I got a B. Awesome. I don't care about your grades. Mom, I got a B. I don't care about your grades. Mom, I got a B. Well, do you think we need a tutor? I mean, what happened? Did you not try? Well, clearly you care about their grades, but you said you didn't. And that gap is very confusing to children of people. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's like, I don't know, saying something to you that is clearly not how they actually feel. And it's very confusing. Mm-hmm. And so being authentic means knowing ourselves. So we can't lie to ourselves and say, I don't care if she goes to that party, because that's what you're supposed to say. That's what the cool moms say, but you really do care. Then that's confusing to kids, because you're like, well, go to the party, I guess, just go. I mean, you're going to go, so go. Is that like go, or is that like you? Instead, you can say, I have some real concerns about you going to that party, and here's what they are. And I know you're going to make your own choice. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. She has some reservations and she's leaving it up to me. And then, I can come back and say, how was the party? Well, Mom, everything you said that happened at the party would have happened. I see why you were concerned about all that. Yeah, I get. Now we're just having a conversation. We're not like trying to figure out what our person is trying to say to us. So I think that goes back to a lot of things we've talked about, having kids not lie to us, having them not feel like they need to roll their eyes, because we know ourselves and we're in relation, and to actually who we are is showing up with our kids. Not to say we can't have privacy. I'll just put that little point in. I don't think it's necessary to tell your kid every single thing you're thinking or feeling, or how much money you make, or how often you make love to your partner. It's okay to have, this doesn't mean no privacy, open book. This means if I'm going to say something to my child, it's an authentic, true reflection of the nuances of how I'm feeling and how I'm communicating that to my child. And it might come as a shock to your child if you haven't been talking to them that way. And I think, again, I always invite Parents I Coach into the invitation to say, I hired a parenting coach. And so you're going to see me doing some things differently because she had some ideas and I'd like to try them. So if you notice me acting different today than yesterday, I don't even need to feel embarrassed or judge, I'm just going to be authentic in that and say, I got some support. I wanted to learn to play the cello is always my example. I'm learning to play the cello. So I got a teacher. And so I'm going to play better tomorrow than I played today because I got a teacher and I'm practicing every day and getting better at playing the cello. I hired a parent teacher and I'm going to try some of the things she's taught me. And so things are going to look different around here. And let's see if it feels better in our family, if we're happier, we feel closer. That's what that looks like.
That is so beautiful, Elisabeth.
Thank you.
Really, everyone, contact Elisabeth. I have loved everything you said, and I think I'm going to be listening to this chat over and over. And I want to leave our listeners right now with just the next step. Like, how did they find you? We know you're fabulous. I can see how you have like 100% transformation in your clients, and it's beautiful. I love how relaxed this whole conversation made me feel.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Often that's parenting is a should, like you should do this. And you really shed a light on how we can do it authentically, loving ourselves, loving our kids, and really shifting whatever's happened in the past, that it is possible to have a new relationship with our kids.
I feel lighter when I hear you say that. And that's what I want any parent who ever has a conversation with me to feel lighter when they leave. Come in heavy, like it's this weight, and then leave. Like you said, my shoulders are up and I'm just feeling lighter and like new things are possible. And I know that's true. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for leaving us with this possibility. Purposeparenting.net, right?
Yes. Yes,
is your
exactly.
website, and you offer a free 30-minute call. Like, look at what we accomplished in this time. So definitely, if you're looking for, a shift in your parenting, reach out to Elisabeth. Thank you so much for being here, Elisabeth. I appreciate you. I appreciate the difference you're making in the world. So thank you, and keep shining that light.
Thank you so much.